All right, welcome back. And in this segment, we are going to talk about CVs and then talk about more details of the format for CVs and resumes. So a CV is an academic resume. It can be more than one page. It can be as long as you can make it, as long as you like. What are CVs usually used for? Well, it's applying for maybe teaching jobs. Sometimes you apply for a PhD, you might include a CV with your application, applying for a PhD program, applying for professorships, research jobs, university jobs. If you're in a master's or PhD program and you need to apply for maybe some research position while you're in your program, something goes along with your studies and your research, or in the U.S. system, some kind of a teaching assistantship in order to fund your doctoral studies, you would use a CV. And so what are some possible sections in a CV, do you think? Besides the normal sections in a resume, what else do you think would be in a CV? What do you think? Let's take a look at mine. So again, I have a photo. That's not something you usually do in Western culture, but this is for Korea. So I have my photo here. Shows I'm a native English speaker, I'm a Westerner. So I have my content. This is my previous CV. Need to update this now. I have relevant internet stuff. So the title is Curriculum Vitae or Vita. Again, that's Latin for course of one's life, kind of like biography, course of one's life. So I've got sections here starting with education. Now I have an online version of my CV, which is different. I start with my publications. That's different because the purpose of my online CV on my website is to highlight my publications and draw people to my publications. But a normal CV, start with education. Notice I'm using columns here for the dates. You don't have to do that, but there are different ways of laying out and formatting CVs and resumes. This is one thing that I've done. I use LibreOffice, not Microsoft Word, because doing tables in LibreOffice is more convenient. And basically for this, I've used tables with invisible borders. That's all. So again, last time you saw the example of my resume, which was all single column format. The titles were highlighted and the dates were pretty close after the title and description. Whatever works so that people can easily find the key information. So the key information are the dates here, and then like a title or key information. Education, so I've got bullets indicating my specialization, title of my dissertation, similar thing for master's degree, and then get into college degrees, then where you list GPA and stuff like that. Okay, work experience. So again, 14 to present. So present means at the time I was still working there. My title, important bullet points to indicate key job duties or accomplishments. Same thing here. This goes all the way back. And of course, I've left out minor things, part-time jobs I did while in graduate school that aren't really quite relevant. I left out minor, short-term, temporary things because I've got enough here anyway. I kind of briefly list important, key courses I taught in these previous jobs. But then a typical thing in a CV is a section for research or publications, and usually it would just be called publications. So I've got publications here, and I'm following, in my case, APA citation style. You could use whatever style is used in your field. And I include links to these. People from using the PDF version of my CV can also click on the links. And in this case, you don't usually do this, but on a CV, you can do this. 2 authors on a publication, and my name is in boldface. I'm boldfacing mine to highlight my name. So that's something you can do on a CV to, when you're one of several authors on a work, boldface your name. Then I've got conference presentations. That's something else people would put on a CV, conference presentations. And then you might have a section for non-academic publications or commercial publications. And here I kind of worked on here as kind of an editor proofreader for some EBS publications. Now, after that, it's up to you and what's relevant to your field. I've got another section here on pedagogical experience, and that's kind of unique to me because my background in education fields. So this is not a common section, but in different fields, you can tailor the CV a lot to the needs of your field and the position you're applying. So pedagogical experience. Here, I'm going to have additional information on the various courses I've taught and also on academic workshops I've done. So I've got detailed information on workshops and materials development. So pedagogical, a section on my pedagogy or teaching experience. That's more unique to maybe people in education fields. We'll talk in a bit about other sections you might have in different fields. Honors and awards, professional activities, that's another possible section. You can do this however you like. Other skills and experience. So I've broken it down: computer skills, language skills, etc. References. So unlike on a resume, on a CV, you actually put actual references. Well, I'll share a sample with you. That's an older sample. I'll share a sample with you on the class website. It will look pretty much like this. Now let's go to my CV guide, and some of the contents are the same as my resume guide, but I'll share this link online. So again, headers, again, the title is CV. Whereas on a resume, the title is curriculum vitae or something like that. Whereas a resume, the title would be your name. Again, publications using whatever citation system is common in your field. Other possible sections: additional information, other skills, projects. You might be in a field where you have projects, research projects, aside from what's listed in your work history or your education history. It could be research projects, it could be business projects, particular projects you've worked on. You could have a section for volunteer work or community service, maybe. Or a section for awards and grants and such. Research interests, as you saw in my example. In some fields, performances, recitals, exhibitions. People in art and music and such might have that section. Personal interests, only if it sounds kind of academically interesting. Like if you are maybe in a humanities or social science field, and you have kind of an intellectual interest in musicology or something like that, you could put that, but don't put something that's not relevant to an academic context. You know, like if you like poetry, maybe that's probably relevant, but playing jazz maybe sounds kind of cool, but not collecting rocks or video games or computer hacking. Again, references, the actual references would be there. Now, what are some layout and format mistakes that people make in resumes and CVs? What do you think? Well, let's look at maybe some of the descriptions of maybe your past job positions and such. If you see this here, let me zoom in. This is kind of really poor format. It's not really easy to read. I mean, there are different ways you can do the format and layout. There's no one way to do it. You can look online for inspiration and ideas, but this just looks terrible. It's hard to read. Whatever layout you use, it should be easy to read. This is not. Look at using colons as bullet points. We don't do that in English. This is messy. It's hard to find the key information, you know, like the date and the title should be easy to find. And then these are descriptions here. Okay, look at these. These are huge bullets. I mean, the Microsoft Word default bullets are huge. Go into the bullet settings and change them to smaller bullets. And these look like giant pancakes or something. These are awful looking. This is better form. You know, you don't have to use columns to do this, but here I change this to columns. It looks better. The dates are over here, or like you saw in my CV, the dates are on the other side. Okay, titles are in boldface. then the job description, and then accomplishments here in bullet points. Come back to bullets later. Fonts. Pick a font that looks readable and professional. Now, you've got a choice between serif fonts and sans serif fonts. So serif fonts have these little kind of decoration on the very ends of the letters. Sans serif, that's French for without serifs. So serifs are these little stroke endings here. I personally think that serif fonts are more readable. I just think that they look better, but there are personal preferences too. Some people do prefer sans serif fonts. Whatever you do, choose a font that looks readable and professional. Here's a list of some common fonts that look really nice. If you don't, you should have these with your operating system. If you have a modern operating system and Office suite, it should have come with some decent fonts. If not, look online for like web fonts, and some of those you can download and install, fonts that are designed for web pages to look really nice and readable. You don't want something boring like Times New Roman. I know some people do it, but that looks like really 1980s style. Times New Roman's boring. Or even Arial. There are sans serif fonts that look better than Arial. So you don't want kind of plain teletype fonts, handwriting fonts, decorative and cute fonts like Comic Sans MS. That just kind of screams, I never grew up past middle school. I'm still stuck in, mentally I'm 12 years old, or you're childish. I mean, that might be okay if you're teaching children, but not for writing a resume or CV. Avoid kind of dingbats, emoticons, and stuff like that. The section headers. So when we talk about like these are, 2.3 fonts. Those are section headers. So especially for section headers, or like here in the resume or CV, where it says experience or education and experience. Those are your section headers. Some people go a little crazy with what we call text decoration. So text decoration, especially for the headings like education, experience, other skills, people go overboard with the text decoration. So that would be things like underlining, boldface, italics, large font, all capital fonts, color fonts. So like this just looks ugly. It's like you're shouting at the reader. And here you've got boldface and italics. It's just too much. Use one text decoration element at a time. Don't combine a bunch at a time. That's just excessive. So you see here the section header is experience, and you got the years, and the title is in boldface. Just like as you see in my CV example, the section headers, let's see if I have so in my example here, for example, the headers are just boldface, maybe numbered also. You'll need to number them. I think my software did that. Maybe a thin line, maybe to separate things if that helps. It's just a thin line, or maybe you don't even need that line, but that's it. Maybe some other things. I use LibreOffice because it's just easier to control this layout and the style of different parts of a document, including the main text and the layout. Of course, with resumes and CVs, you notice the descriptions are incomplete sentences. Let's look more at language and style. For descriptions of your work experience, for example, of job duties, this is a bit wordy. Develop reading span tests, blah, blah, blah. Just develop reading span tests for non-Western languages. That's it. So keep it to, this is an incomplete sentence, like no subject, and that's fine. That's normal for resumes and CVs, but keep it to like one normal sentence. This is just too long. Break it up into separate points or something. Avoid kind of cliches. Was proactive in managing, just manage a team of 20. Avoid some of those cliche words like proactive and things like that. Try to use more interesting descriptive verbs like introduced, managed, not just did and made. Some other things here, parentheses. So in English and other Western languages, this is incorrect. If you don't have a space before the first parentheses, that's actually a typographical error, and it just looks bad. There should be a space here. Right, so in Korean, you use this tilde for date and number ranges, but not in English. It's just a hyphen or a long dash, like this. PhD, it should have a period here and here. Colon, no space before the colon, space afterwards. Bullets, avoid ugly looking bullets like this. Plain ones, don't use these kind of silly wingdings and stuff. Just simple conservative bullets. And here's a sample CV here again, and I'll provide my sample online too through the class website for you to look at. So that's CVs and resumes and the format and appearance. So if you have any questions, post them in the LMS comments, and next time we're going to talk about statements of purpose, or SOPs, to apply for a graduate school program. So I will see you later.